Good evening, everyone. Welcome to class number 27 of Advanced Course in Drones for Development. Three more days to go, guys, and it's been an amazing journey. I'll say that every day to you because, yes, I'm totally thrilled. No matter how complicated assignment we give you, you still do it so beautifully. Thank you so much for that. And today we are going to take a discussion of urban development or infrastructure development a step further. And to talk about it today, we will have Kanav Kapoor from Kanav Kumar from Better Drones. Sorry, Kanav. And I met this guy in a conference once, and he straightforward came to me and said that, Richie man, I've been following you on LinkedIn and everything, and let's do something together. I'm like, yeah, what do you want to do? He's like, I want to create programs, training programs, so that I can give jobs to everybody in India. I'm like, yeah, that's a great vision. So he's a very young chap, and he's one of the youngest drone entrepreneurs in India. And in the last 1 year, he has just turned around the drone industry in his direction. Everybody appreciates and admires what he does. So today we are going to learn from him. A person like him at this young age has taken up projects which belong to National Highways Authority of India, which is fully commendable. Today we want to learn from Kanav about all the work that he has done for roads and highways. How did he go about it? What were the complications? And what did he learn from that? What were the challenges? So Kanav, over to you. Pass is yours.
Okay. Hi. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Hi,
Can you put on
everyone.
your video,
Hello.
Kanav? And
Yes,
so
just
that
give
I
me a
can.
second. Yes.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm here.
Great.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. As I'm audible and you can see me, correct?
You're audible? Yes.
No network glitch, I hope.
No. All perfect.
Okay. Perfect. Let me start. Can I start now?
Yes, please.
Okay. Thank you. Is it visible? Perfect.
Yes. Yes, Kanav.
Okay. So, hi everyone. This side Kanav Kumar. So, I will be talking about the drones in highways and railways. So, this is one of the interesting topic, and I would say not interesting. This is one of the topic and the industry which is very close to me because this particular industry helped me to you know clarify my vision as much as possible at this age, right? Because this industry taught me how to work in drones and what are the outcomes we can give it to the NHAI or the DFCCL or the railways. So this particular industry it took me a long way, taught me a lot. Also, this particular industry helped me to stand as an entrepreneur, as financial, you can say financially, or you can say as a corporate person, or there's so many things which particularly this industry, railways and highway, given me. Okay, so I will be starting with my story, give you a little bit brief, and then I will be taking you through a tour. The tour will be mostly about what are the opportunities and how this railways and roadways industry work, right? So there are no long presentations, it will be more about discussion. I will show you some very interesting images. There's a story behind every images, I will be covering that as well. Okay, taking you forward. So I'll give you a brief what Better Drone's about. Better Drone is my company. I'm the co-founder of this company. I have Abhishek and Brigadier Sunil Chadda with me in the core team, and we have more than 12-15 people right now. We are getting more and more good people into the Better Drones family, so we can proceed and we can go beyond the limits which we had thought of. So there are thousands of people and million of people right now. They're screaming about the COVID. They're screaming about the locust. They're screaming about every problem on the earth. They're just screaming out why it's happening, why it's only to me, why it happened to me. But the beauty of this problem lies on the different side. So you need to look for the solution. So solution lies inside your vision. So vision should be very clear. This is always one of my starting, this is the approach which I used to take. So bad times can be with anyone. I used to go for I've already gone through so many bad times. I have highs and lows both. Every day I also have some frustration. Every day I also go into, I think a lot what need to be done, what next, why my client is not paying me at the right time, why what's the next step, to get the more business. So these are the very common issues which we can talk about. So let me take you through the Better Drone ones, and then I will give you brief what about about me and everything, right? So Betatron, firstly, we are into the training. So why training is important? What right now you guys were doing, actually it's a training, right? It's a new and the more developed method of doing a training, correct? You will be going through almost 30 classes, and almost 70-80% of your course had been done. But the interesting part of this course is you met different personalities. You had already met more than 25 personalities. Now you will be you meeting 3 or 4 more personalities. So extracting out from everyone is very important thing, which is, I think you people are very fortunate, because I had never got this kind of opportunity in my life to learn through this way. So this is one of the easiest and one of the, I can say, shortcut to learn the thing, right? I had learned from the difficult way. I don't had any courses like this. I don't have Ruchi ma'am there, right? I don't have mentors like her. I don't have people like her to guide me, to tell me what need to be done. Because see, there will be very few people who will train you, who will actually train you to be ready. So why we talk about training is a very important aspect. It's not about learning a skill. I can tell you, whatever I have learned, you can learn in a day. I not say the day. You will take a month, or you will take a 3 month. Maybe someone will take a 1 year, but you can learn that, right? But what I understand from training, it's a change. It's an attitude change. If we are not able to do the attitude change, if we as a trainer, or we as a gurus, were not able to make you understand that what are the ethics, what are the behavior you need to change, what are the things you need to take seriously. So those are the training aspect. Okay, what are the SOPs, the standard operating processes you need to follow. So today I will be talking about SOPs also. I will be talking about safety also, because there are very few who talk about this. People can talk about technology, people can show you zeros, millions and billions, but it's very important to be more concerned about the safety and security part of that particular technology, right? So training is very important. We are already into the training. We train people. It's a physical training. We have training areas in Greater Noida, one of the part near Delhi. And then we are into services. We are mostly into the data acquisition. So what we focus on mass level data acquisition. When I say mass level data acquisition, it simply means when you have a project like 5,000 square kilometer, for maybe crop insurance, for maybe irrigation, for maybe water planning, it can be anything, right? Then there's a big question mark, that how you will do that 5,000 square kilometer within a limit, within a time frame. Maybe client had given you a time of 30 days. How you will plan it? How many pilots you have? How many co-pilots you have? How many ground control stations you have? How many system you have? Do you have a backup for that? So these are very interesting, and a very, the question which you need to sit back, you need to think, you need to correctly put those on your Excel sheet and then answer those. So we are actually answering those pain points for the industry. We are not saying that we will put AI there, we will put a machine learning there, we will do that, we will do this, we will make a platform. There's so many good industry player who already are there with platform. So I used to use those technology which were there already in market. Why should I build them? It is already there, and they're good at that. I am good at something else. We are good at high accuracy and mass level data acquisition with RGB, thermal, LiDAR. So LiDAR is a very interesting technology. We are also new in that, but somehow we are able to fetch good projects in LiDAR for Northeast Japanese investment bank. They're investing in Northeast for the development of roads, to get the, to make sure that people will get easy access to the basic essentials, right? So this is the service part. And when I say data analytics, we are also there. But when I say data analytics, we are very focused to the inspection part. And when you talk about inspection, why inspection is, it's also very interesting thing. In railways, inspection is very important. So today I will be speaking about that as well. Inspection is a recurring job. You need to think twice as an entrepreneur. Maybe some of you guys, you will after this course, maybe some of you are on fire, and you think, man, and now this is the right time. I have a problem, I have a very interesting problem with me. Now I have to sit down, I have to make sure that I will find some solution around this, right? So maybe some of you can come up, and you should. This is the right time to get into these kind of technologies. See, COVID had, the statement which came from a very interesting person. I'm just forgetting the name. He quoted that COVID made every company a technology company. Either it be any company, name any company. Now it became a technology company. Somehow it is backed by IT infrastructure. Somehow it is backed by internet, the cloud technology, the other kind of things, right? So data analytics, we focus on the inspection part, and more on when I talk about inspection, it is more into the power sector. It is more into the infrastructure. It is more into the heavy engineering. So this is all about. This is what Betatron actually do. Yep, this is a very interesting part. There are very few people who actually talk about this. And if you want to talk about these topic, if you want to actually discuss about this topic, standards, safety, SOPs, there are very few people which I already mentioned, and you have to go through a very senior person in the industry. Maybe he will from Air Force or Army or corporate industry, but you have to find a chap who had already gone through the bad times, who had seen ups and downs in his career. But when he will discuss the thing about standards and safeties and SOPs with you, you will find, man, what are you talking about? Why do we need to put a helmet there? Why should we have a white helmet? We should have a blue helmet? Or why should we need to put a cone around a drone? And why do we need to put a helipad H sign and these kind of thing near a drone? And why do we need to wear glasses? So these are a very interesting question. Even I am actually almost from the same age group you are. Okay, maybe I am younger from so many of you, right? So these are the questions which I have already gone through. These are the questions which I used to, murmur in my mind again and again. Why do we need to do this? Why there's a need of this? Why do I need to make a SOP for a particular thing? I will talk about SOPs. This is a very interesting story in our company about SOPs. So people used to say you have a SOP for everything from A to Z. We have a SOP. Even we have a SOP for taking images on ground, that how you need to take it, what should be the frame, what you should cover, and what should not be covered. That's also very important aspect. So SOP is standard operating process. So when I say standard operating process, so you need to understand, maybe some of you guys will be entrepreneur, or maybe some of you guys will join a drone company or any other company, right? So there are 100 people in the industry, 100 people in a company works on some of the standards. They need an output accordingly, right? So you can't teach something, or you can't train everyone at a same level, right? So you need to lay down the SOPs. So according to the SOP, you need the outcome. But there's a very interesting myth I would say, I don't know, is it a myth or what? I'm still learning about all these things. So people used to say that if you have a SOP, you are actually, you're putting a question mark, or you're putting a I would say question mark only. You're putting a big question mark on the innovation and the thinking of your, thinking of your team member, thinking of your family. So you are putting a break on their thinking. So they won't think, they won't innovate, and you won't go beyond. But when I say, okay, you are right, I used to reply with this, yeah, you are correct. But you need to answer my question first. If you are able to convince me, then I will change these things maybe. So professionally, when you are into industry, so there are two things. One, a chap, anyone can go, anyone can register a company and start with a single drone. Okay, this is one thing. But when they will go to big companies, they will acquire orders, they will acquire projects, then there is some expectation, there are some standards which is being laid by these government organization or the private organization. Then you understand, man, why he's saying you need a safety operation manual, you need a training process manual, TPM, you need a SOP for flying a drone. So we have a SOP for almost everything. It's a mapping, it's a survey, it's an inspection. Maybe I told you about taking images on ground. Then we have a SOP for how the process will flow inside the company. If there's a project which came from business development side, then how it will flow to the operation team. Then how will operation team will plan for the pilot, how the operation manager will block the calendar for pilots, how it will be managed. If someone is asking for holiday, we need to figure out, okay, there is no big project or there's no other commitment, we can send him. So there are so many things we need to think about. Now I will come to the safety part. So I think most of you are very fascinated or used to see Air Force pilots who are flying multi-rotor jets and single engine, double engine with jets at the speed of 4 Mach or 5 Mach. We are always very enthusiastic about those people. But have you ever seen that what are the process they always used to go? What is the backstory? What is the backend? What is the UX of that? We always used to see the UI. So it is all. It's very easy to It's very easy to anticipate so many things. So I'm just cutting out this thing into a very interesting thing which came in front of me almost 3 or 4 days back. So there's a post by someone who is already inside this inside this webinar. She is sitting there actually. So there's a post by her on the Facebook, and it's a very long post. So I decided, okay, let's go through this. And after reading that, I'm actually in shock. I told Abhishek, my co-founder, man, you should go through this. So anticipation for anything without knowing the background, it's not fair. It's not fair actually. So you need to think about the safety and the processes near around it from a very different angle of your lenses. So you need to change your lens for the safety. So it's a very big question mark on our young generation, that people want success in a day. People want success in hours, but success won't turn up in hours. It take years and years and years. I can name down the drone industry people. I can name down the other industry people who made it through. If you ask them the day, can you tell me the year when you have started, they used to tell me, man, 2012, man, 2013 or 14 or 15. I used to be like, man, what I'm doing at during the time of 2012. Okay, I was in 10th standard at that time in 2010. So I need to think, if I'm trying to hustle a lot, if I'm trying to hustle a lot, if I'm trying to go beyond everything, right? So you need to sit and you need to calm down. You need to think, man, no, these things will take time. So safety is a very important aspect. You need to consider it. It should be always on your diary. It should be always the first point you need to consider before going to any project or doing anything. And especially when we talk about UAVs, this machine can do anything, on the positive side as well, on the negative side as well. You are very well aware about these things. I will be not talking about that. And standards, I will take you through the standards, what standard is all about. Okay, so okay, now I will drop this story around. You can ask if you have any question regarding how I came through, what are the story behind these things, how we how Beta Drones born up, what before that what I am actually doing. So I am last year pass out, for your knowledge. I'm very young also. I'm trying to make something out in this particular industry and take this forward a long way. So let's talk about the roads and railways. Now let's get back to the serious thing. So I have a question from you guys. So you need to think. Maybe you can't answer right now, but this question should be there in your mind. So whenever you see an opportunity, there's a very interesting story with me itself. So people used to say, man, think every time, think every time, think every time. I was like, yes, I can think every time, but you can't sit and you can just think. No, you have to do your daily job. You have to make food for yourself. You have to drive down. You have to go for groceries. You have to go to your office. When I will get the time to think? Is there is a time in calendar to think? Is there is a time in my schedule to think? No, we are human. We don't used to have time for particularly thinking. I have never seen someone who used to put his calendar who used to block his calendar with a topic of thinking. I have never seen a person. Maybe there are some people. So how you will find opportunities near around you? So I will give you an example. If you take a drive in your car, you are on roads, correct? If you look around yourself, if you look around the environment, what you will find? You will find agriculture everywhere. You will find pipelines. You will find cell tower everywhere. You will find power line everywhere. So these are the opportunities. You need to stick with the fundamental. You don't need to jump to the business models. You don't need to jump to something which is very, it looks good. Sometimes things looks very good, very fascinating, but something which shines a lot, I don't trust that. I had learned this from the hard way. Something which shines a lot, it's not good for you. Something which is harsh, something which is not something which is rough, it's always good, because it always make you it always teach you that how you have to go forward. You can learn in a very short way. It's good to take hard ways. It's always good to take hard ways. Okay. So, and the second thing is, if you want to go long, you always prefer to take a train. So we will be discussing things about the roadways and the railways today. So I think these are the two very common, most used. I think everyone had gone through the roads, everyone had used the trains. So these are the two common major factor for our economy. Okay, so guys, when I say economy, you need to think beyond these highways and the roadways. Everyone is very much worried about that what will happen after COVID, how the economy will run, how these things, how will people get job, how the industry will run, how the startup will run. There's a very big question mark on so many startups. Actually, they are not able to pay their employees. They're not able to even sustain. They're not able to even pay the rents. So this is a big question mark. But when I see economy on the other side, economy is in the movement. If you have the movement, there is economy. If you have the logistics, so now you have to listen very carefully. Economy comes from movement. If you open your infrastructure, if you put money in your infrastructure, then everything is moving. I will take an example. If you have a small construction project of, let's say, 50 kilometer of road or 50 kilometer of railway track, cement industry will earn out of that, iron industry will earn out of that, steel industry will earn out of that, raw material industry will earn out of that, manpower, from the very small, the lowest wage person to the highest engineer, the CEO, the decision maker. So the wheel of economy will somehow come into the picture, right? So we always need to focus on those on those areas where these component will help to run the whole economy. Okay, AI cannot drive the whole economy, or selling a grocery at a shop will not help you to move the wheel of the economy. But there are some very interesting factor like power generation, roadways, highways, okay, then railways. So they are very interesting factor that you need to consider about. So that's why this particular industry is always fascinated. And the first project we got from the very first day, we are very much sure, okay, if we are able to deliver good, if we are able to deliver quality in this particular project, then we are not 100% sure, but yeah, we are at least 90 or 80% sure that if we are able to deliver good at this part, we will get the more business, right? So the big question out of this will come, do we need to get connected? Are we connected? So that's a big question. And the other part is how. So we all are connected through internet, correct? But we are only connected. Our emotions are not there. If you have to go to your granny house, you have to drive down. You have to take a train. You have to go. You have to go beyond your limit. So connection for a relationship, connection for an economy, being connected is a very important aspect. So taking you forward from this. Okay, now we will come to a brief that need of UAV in this industry. What is the need? So these are the three common needs which is always used to come in front of me. First is the planning, second is the construction, and third is the monitoring part. So when I say planning is not about just making some drawings on paper. Planning is not about making CAD files. Planning is not about taking some images, making a model on that. No, planning is not about that. Planning is financial. Planning is feasibility. Planning is environmental. Are we harming environment a lot? If I make a road, so I need to look, I need to see from where these roads are actually passing. Are we disturbing any kind of natural habitat? What is the feasibility of this road? If we make this road, how much what we can get beyond just making the road? If there is a road which is connected between Delhi and Bombay, so what is the impact if this particular highway or this particular road is not there? So you need to think at that part. If Delhi and Bombay is not connected, you can think what can go beyond, what can go wrong, right? So planning is not about that. Planning is beyond this. So how drone help you to plan the roads and the railway industry? So you need to understand the satellite images used to be very low resolution. So the resolution is around what, 20 to 20 is not the right thing to say. I would say 30 centimeter is the best resolution which we can get through a satellite. And that too, we need to wait for 7 days, then acquire the data. Acquiring a satellite data is very, very, very difficult. It's a task itself. right? But acquiring a UAV data, acquiring a drone data is not that difficult. It's pretty much easy if you learn through the right way, right? So planning is very important aspect. If I will take an example. I will give you an example. If there is a road in northeast of India, okay, northeast still need a lot of infrastructure, a lot of roads, a lot of highways, lots of railways to connected with the country. To get, if you are connected, then economy will run. If there is a good road, then there will be supply of groceries, then there will be supply of vegetable, then there will be supply of medicine. Thousand of things will run actually, right? So you need to see that from where I need to, I need to plan my road, how much vegetation I need to cut down, what is the impact beyond this. So these are the very important aspect. And the second thing, which when I say construction, so construction, people used to, maybe so many of you guys were thinking that what is the use of drones in construction. So guys, you need to understand, there are thousand and thousand of vendor for a government who can make something, who can build a bridge, who can build a road, who can build highways, roadways, railways, anything. But when we talk about a planned construction with a time frame, it need to be planned, it need to be verified, that whatever the plan was, whatever the plan we had decided, the engineers or the guys who are there in the finance department, who are planning financially, who are planning technically, is it on the right way? Are we have given the contract to the right person, to the right company? So construction monitoring is a very important aspect. So when I say construction, if you have a 3D model that how this particular bridge will look like, then you can actually fly your drone again and again, make 2D models, make or 3D models, and then see that what is the progress. And having this kind of progress, we can put that data into the data science methods, data science formula, that how much time it will take, to reach there. So these are very interesting thing. And the last thing is monitoring. So monitoring is again very important for the financial part. If we have money to survive for 3 years, and if this particular project is almost taking 4 year or 5 year, then there's a big question mark on the existence of that particular project. So we need to think beyond this. So these three are the component of UAVs into the roadways and the railways. Okay, so now a little bit of technical things will come up. Okay, so some of you can even note down these things. So I will talk about the process now. So the process for the railways and the roadways are almost similar. They're 99% similar. Take that, right? So I will tell you a story, and in between the story, I will cover all these things. So just be with me and understand. If I have a project from A point to B point, okay, and my business team is discussing this particular thing with a client, that there is 100 kilometer of project in a particular area, right? From A to B, we need to plan that. We need to see what's the terrain. We need to see how we'll plan this. We need to see where we need to stay. We need to see that what kind of KML we are getting. We need to see where we need to fly. So there are thousands of questions which may can arise. Okay, so I hope you guys know about the KML. So KML is a format of a particular, I would say, sketch or line. It's a keynote markup language. So we used to get this KML of a particular project in a format, so we can open this particular KML file in Google Earth Pro. So Google Earth Pro is a satellite platform which help us to view the Earth in a very different aspect. So we can have terrain in that, we can analyze the height, we can analyze the kind of the level of area from sea water level and all these kind of thing, right? So first my team will get the KML. After that, what will happen, my technical team, my operation team will analyze that KML. And after the analysis of that KML, the operation manager will have some very interesting questions like condition of terrain. Is the terrain is plain, or do we have some terrain like 100 or 200 meter? Is the area where we need to fly is plain, or we have terrain? If we have terrain, which app I should use? How my drone will do the terrain following? Do I need to use the terrain following method, or do I need to go without terrain following method? If I'm using terrain following method, that how many days will it take to me? Will it take us to execute the project? And if I'm not going by the terrain following method, then how many days it will take? And with the days, the interesting part come into the feasibility of the project, because there are limitation for financial always, right? So in a limit of 0 to 100 rupees, we need to finish a particular task. we need to analyze that what we can use, the best we can use, and also very interestingly, the quality of data required by a client. Right, if he say I need a 5 centimeter of GSD, so GSD is ground sampling distance. So when I talk about 5 centimeter of GSD, then we need to think that at what height we need to plan, at what overlap we need to put. Do we need to put 70-70 overlap? Do we need to put 90-90 overlap for flying? So these are very interesting questions. Then is there is any no flying zone? So no flying zone part is the safety part. You need to go back and you need to consider all these things again and again in your mind. You need to think. You need to think twice, 100 times, 1,000 times. Then the problem statement will give you the solution. And then the third part, when my operation team used to come with these kind of questions and answer, then the next step is with the senior pilot. The senior pilot will start flight plannings. So how flight planning will help us? Actually, the image which you can see on the right side, it is a flight plan for a road itself. And if you look on the, if you just focus on the bottom right side, so there are two different parallel lines, right? So they are actually merging. So this is known as the overlap between two KMLs, or overlap between two flight lines. So second one, you can consider the overlap between two flight lines. It means that I have a flight plan. My drone can fly for 30 minutes. It can cover this particular area. Then I will go to the next point, and then I will take a little bit of data from my last flight line to merge that data, to make sure that all the data will merge easily. So this flight line is from a Northeast project where we have to do the terrain following. So our efficiency was almost 50% less from the normal project which we used to do. So terrain is like what, 80 meter, 200 meter somewhere. The highest point which had gone to almost 350 meter of terrain in a single flight line. So this is known as the flight planning part. Flight planning is always good to, given as a responsibility to a senior pilot. If a senior pilot is doing a flight planning, then the experience will come up. He will not come back very excited always. He will not come back, sir, we will do this, we will do that. No, he will come with some questions. Sir, do we need to do this? If we are doing this, then this can happen. Or so he will always do the risk assessment part. So after risk assessment, the fourth part need to get the answer, yes or no. Do we need to execute it, or we are not executing this? So yes and no. So we need to sit either on the no side or the yes side. So because if once the business development team or the owner of the company will commit to a client, then it will be a commitment thing. You have to go, you have to take the risk, you have to do the project, and then you have to execute it, and then you have to deliver it. If you're not taking it, say no directly. It's very clear. I had gone through so many experience where we have overcommitted, or where we have committed not with a good time frame. So we took a lot of time to execute that project. So this come always through the hard way somehow. Okay, so but yeah, if you are in connection with the right people, they're guiding you, they can tell you a lot of things. So after the whole team will take the decision to execute it or not. So again, I will say you will only see the UI part, the front end part. Execution will happen. Okay, everyone is excited, but there are so many brains behind that execution. There is a financial brain who are thinking that, okay, 30% of the total money I have to make sure that all the operation will happen in 30% of 30% of the amount, and I need to take 10% for the insurance and for the safety of my pilot. Then I need to take I need to take care of 10% for the buffer cost or for the risk assessment, something like that. And then at least if you are running a company, you should have 50% of profits. So these are the these are the components which is always there with a financial person. Then senior pilot will be thinking, okay, to whom I will send, who is the right person to be on ground for this project, or the taking the decision for a right co-pilot, that I should send a co-pilot. I will be talking about pilot and co-pilot job. Why a co-pilot is a very important, it's always it's like a marriage between a pilot and co-pilot. It's very important to have a good colleague with you. And let me just note out this point. I will cover it. It's very it's important for you guys. So after decision has been taken, if you're planning to go for the execution, then the flight execution will start. So flight execution is the part of data verification. So if I'm flying, if I'm doing the data acquisition part, after data acquisition, there is a very important process of verification. If you're not verifying anything on ground, then there's a very, very, very big question mark on your credential. it used to be, there will be some image missing, there will be some overlap issue. So it's a technical machine, right? You can't trust 100% on that. So it's very important to do the data verification using multiple software. So there is Global Mapper. You can use Global Mapper, you can use AGI Soft, these are the GIS software, or you can use Pix4D. That's one of the easiest. So you should do the data verification every day. So this again comes into the SOP part. So this is a responsibility of a co-pilot. After executing the project, getting back to the hotel where they're staying, then getting fresh, and after settling down, you need to first sit down with your laptop, take out the data, write down at what time which flight took place, at what time I had a landing or I had a harsh landing whatsoever, right? So these are inside your logbooks. So maintaining a logbook is also a very important part. So even the regulation emphasize on logbook, maintaining a logbook. So we always make sure that every pilot of ours, even the trainees, the people who come to train here, they maintain a logbook from the very first day. So I recommend you to maintain your logbook if you're flying, and if someone will come and ask you, okay, how much hours of experience you have, you will say 300. Do you have any proof for that 300? You don't have any proof. You don't have any proof for that 300. Can you just guys give me a second? Just give me a second, please. 1 second. Hi. Yep. Sorry, I'm back. Thank you. So logbook is very important. You should consider it. And after verification of the data, the second part will come to the ground team, the team over there in office. So these are the the GIS team who used to work on geoinformatics system part. So GIS, I hope most of you guys have a little bit of idea about GIS. So then the processing will start. Then you will start making the orthomosaic 2D model or 3D model, whatsoever is required from the client side. Then the last part is the data visualization. This is a very interesting part, actually, the last part. When I talk about the data visualization, so in this particular era, data visualization is a challenge also for some of the people, and it's a opportunity for some of the people. So they're a very good platform where you can actually showcase your data. So you don't need to take lots of printout of all the maps and printing big maps like 6 by 6 feet or 1 by 1 meter, something like that. The maps used to be like this, okay, and then you have to go take all over that, take all the kind of data with you, then you have to showcase. No, there are very interesting platform like Pix4D, InShine, Felix, Drone Deploy, where you can showcase your data. You process it, you do everything, you make the drawings, and after that you can showcase the data on a single click. So guys, this is the process. This is a brief process. You can ask a question from this if you have. So understanding a process is very important. If you understand it thoroughly, if you understand the risk and the pros and cons of a process, you will be able to execute a project in a very good way. Now I will come to roadways. So roads are easy to make, but they're difficult to plan. So this is one of the example which we had gone through during this January and February. So this is a 2-month project we took there in Northeast. So this is the actual image. So you can see a road actually, right? I hope it's visible. So you can see a road, it's almost zigzag. Nothing is straight. And you see the terrain from where this road is coming, and now, where is the end. So planning a road at this height, planning a road to make sure that the project will execute in a particular time frame is very important. Here is a very interesting technology which anyone can use. Maybe you can write down that and read more about that particular technology later stage. So that's LiDAR. So LiDAR is a technology, LiDAR. It's a very interesting technology, especially when it comes to the vegetation. So if you see this image, if you focus on this image, you will see a green canopy. Now imagine there is a DEM on the right side. This is a digital elevation model of this particular road only. So this on the left side is just an image, and on the right side is the process data. So if you see the DEM digital elevation model, and if you see the contour part of that, contour is the above part. Contour will actually give you the layer of levels, how much contour, the leveling of that particular area. So it's a very, you need to go beyond limits and learn from GIS. What about contour, DM, orthomosaic? So if I have a problem statement like this, so I used to have mostly, the green canopy in my outcomes. It's very difficult to understand a particular region. It's very difficult to understand a particular area when I have a green canopy. So then what will happen? I will analyze the land, because I have to make the the road on land, not on the canopies of tree, right? So there is the use of the particular technology like lidar. So aerial lidar is very interesting market. Even we have one. Fortunately, we have one of the aerial lidar with us, and we are already in the market. We are already executing the project, very interesting project. So the use case of lidar is into roads, is into railways, is into urban planning. Urban planning is very interesting use case. So now there is a very interesting project coming up in Mumbai. So all these slums need to get mapped, and mapping a slum is a very, 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 very challenging part. So you need to use lidar there. You need to understand how we'll use lidar, aerial lidar, and then the lidar on the ground. Okay, so just leave that about. So roadways. So in roadways, the planning is very important part. So and the second part is the construction part, and third part is your monitoring part. You need to monitor that, how you need to plan all these things, correct? Now coming the basics about the railways part. So railways is always a lifeline about for any country. Okay, when we talk about lifeline, so it help you to move every bit of the thing from every place. Maybe it's the extreme place, from maybe it's desert, maybe it's hilly, maybe it's on the shore side, anything. Railways can actually take the challenge. The number here, which is on the left side of your screen, is 1,23,326 kilometer. You know what is this? This is the kilometer. This is the length of Indian railways, the total length of the tracks which we had laid till date. 1,23,326 kilometer of railway tracks. Now this number will talk about the opportunity. So this is a game, actually. This is the gamble, where you need to find, the opportunities inside the numbers, inside the emotions. So on the left side you can see an image where you can see a bridge. Okay, on the right side you can see an aerial view of a particular railway station. I will give you a context for both of the images. So let's start from the left side. I will talk more about the railways in one of my another PPT. I will come to that. Let me first finish this. And so left part is one of the difficult and one of the interesting project for us. So what we need to do, we need to do the inspection for this railway bridge. So inspection in railways is also a very emerging vertical. So on the left part, when you see the bridge, there are two bridges. Okay, so one bridge you can actually see the full image. You can see the piers, you can see the structure above that. And for the other bridge on the left side, you can just see a single pillar. So single pillar is the new one, the image on the pillar on the left side. And on the right side, the image you can see that particular bridge was made in 1897, 1897, during the British time. Okay, the bridge is still operational. Almost 50 trains used to cross that bridge. This is Chambal, actually. This is Chambal Ghati. This is a bridge which connects the Madhya Pradesh and the Rajasthan. If we disconnect this bridge, then the railway connectivity between the Madhya Pradesh and the Rajasthan will affect a lot, right? So what we did, we inspected every part of this bridge. We took almost three kind of drone. One is RGB, one is thermal. Another drone which we took is Parrot Anafi, to make sure that we have a solution for 180 degree of camera freedom, the gimbal freedom. So 180 degree we used to inspect the bottom side. So we have almost inspected every part of this, maybe the bearings, the pier side, or the the bottom side, where you can find a lots of corrosion. I am not able to put the pictures in this particular slide, but if anyone is interested for this, can get connected with me over a mail. So the left one is for the bridge side, and the right side, if you can see, it's a small station. So what project we got? We got a project to do not an inspection. This is a mapping project. So we got a project to do the 3D mapping for almost 10 stations. So these are small station. We do the 3D mapping. Then the question which may arise, that what is the use of 3D mapping in for a particular railway station? So interestingly, we don't have any data which is digital. Okay, neither are railways, neither are roadways. Even we are struggling in that. We are struggling for to acquire the digital data for our infrastructure. So the engineers who actually make those, the kind of station and everything, the infrastructure near around, the encroachment near around, and these guys also need to plan to expand the railways. So these are the guys who actually need the data to work over that. So these are the two major use cases. And inside the bridge inspection, we are one of the finest to do because of the experience. We had almost lost our 2 drones while doing the bridge inspection. Till date, we did almost 25 bridges. We have covered almost every difficult bridge in India for Indian Railways. So they always used to give the most difficult part in Varanasi, Delhi old railway bridge. Then this is Chambal bridge. Then coming down to Bhopal, there's almost a very difficult bridge to cover up, almost a kilometer. Then we had gone to Himachal side to cover not Himachal, the JNK side, the Jammu side, to cover a bridge. So this is all about the railway side. So these are some, project image. So on the right side, you can see the bridge, which I'm talking about, right bottom, this one. And on the upper side, you can see a guy who is actually flying for the roadways, the project which I'm talking about, the Northeast project. On the left side and the above left side, this is the LiDAR actually. This particular blue color cylindrical sensor is a LiDAR. And this is the outcome of a LiDAR. So what we are doing here, we are actually mapping and we are actually inspecting the slag of these, transmission lines. So when I do a normal RGB inspection, it's very, very difficult to acquire the data of these wires. This is the only technology as of now in the market to analyze the slag of these particular transmission line, right? So you may ask me if you have any question regarding LiDAR, what are the use case, what is the approach for the future, how we can use this technology. Okay, guys. So this is all about this part. I will cover up the railways part a little bit. I will take you through the application of UAV in the railways. So this is a brief, the description about the railways. So I will take you through. The total route length is 67,368 kilometers. This is the route length. The total track length is 1,21,407. So the data is actually, there is a little bit of difference in that. And about 60% of the route is electrified. When I say electrified, you need to again go back and you need to see the opportunity in that. When it is electrified, there will be a lots of component, there will be a lots of wire, there will be lots of insulator. The game of inspection will come into that particular area. So inspection will come. Again, you have to think of drones. Again, you have to think of thermal cameras. Again, you have to think of RGB, right? And then the target of the Indian railways, is to achieve almost full. They need to get fully electrified by 2023. So you see, now again you have to go to opportunity. If we are fully electrified, then we need to produce more coal. Then we need to, we need to depend on more green energy. We need to produce. The infrastructure will come into the game. The wheel of the economy will actually turn around, right? So this is the brief detail about that, and the very interesting part of the Indian Railway which came into the picture is DFCIIL. So this is a dedicated freight corridor. Dedicated freight corridor is actually being made for transporting the containers to make sure that all the parcel will reach at their destination at a particular and the right time. Before time, it should be before time, right? So the economy will also run on track, right? And Indian Railways, one of the biggest revenue making, you can say, organization or a PSU, and employing almost 13 lakh people in India. So way ahead. So there is a very huge investment for the railways. I will not take a lot of time on this. So there's a high-speed railway network which need to be done. Station need to be redeveloped. track need to be, refurbished for the DFCCIL, and the track gauge need to get improved. Then track electrification, then doubling of track, renewable energy for solar, automation in the safety and security. If you see all these points, you guys can actually answer that where is the use case of these particular. You need to do the mapping, you need to do the videography of the project progress, you need to do the change detection for the project. Then after the project is completed, then after when the execution will start, you need to do the inspection again and again. So the industry is recurring actually. Challenges in Indian Railway, just leave it about. So inspection is one of the major challenge actually, right? So planning, survey, and maintenance. Then okay, not so the current solution is the survey and the mapping. Inspection is the thing which is required. Accuracy with the satellite is not that good. 1 meter is the thing, and yep. So these are the category which you already know about. People from India and nearby countries, they are aware of how the DGCA is going into the how they are making the rules and regulation, how they're coming with the categories, the kind of UIN, NPNT, and the kind of UAP you require. So it's a long story for that. And yes, so railways can use drones for these particular use cases, right? Periodic assessment of their assets. So when we talk about asset, so interestingly, India will be one of the biggest country to manage a lot of assets. When I say lot of asset, I mean million and million of assets. In India, there is huge assets, railways, roadways, heavy infrastructure, power lines, distribution lines, everything is an asset. So they also need to manage their asset. They also need to digitalize their asset. They also need to verify that is that particular asset is there, or some change had occurred. Okay. Then inspection of the bridges and tunnels, monitoring of their electrical line along with the track length, inspect the corrosion, crack, fracture. 3D model can help you to engineer all these things. Using artificial intelligence, you can detect the structural damage on bolt attachment, the kind of the corrosion, the displacement of the bolt, and etc. Then thermal camera is also a very interesting use case in the railways industry. This is a solution for power transmission inside the the railway. These are some method. I don't think it's much relevant to you. This is the process which I already discussed with you. The data acquisition, monitoring that data. It's about monitoring that data is about the data verification, then frequency and the accuracy of data, and last is the feasibility of the project. So this is one of the platform which we use for the inspection of the power transmission lines. So it is almost similar in the railways. And this is a comparison chart. So some of you guys will find it interesting. Some of you guys will actually not understand this. But if you just go through the data, I will give you an example. The coverage of area per day can be, it's a very huge issue with UAV. That with the UAV, the single machine, we can actually cover 50 to 100 square kilometer. That too, you have to use almost 5 or 6 or 10 machines every day to acquire this kind of data. But satellite, you can acquire thousands of square kilometers of data. But if you come to the next part, the kind of resolution, the kind of quality of the data, it's actually differ a lot. You can get the inside satellite, you can get 200 or 300 centimeter. Here you can get the 2 to 8 centimeter of the accuracy, right? Weather don't have any much effect on the drone side. If you have a cloudy weather, or the position of the sun and the condition of the wind is not in your favor, then you don't need to fly. But if it is there in your favor, then you can't fly. But with the satellite, you need to see the cloud cover and the other factors also. This is the operational limitation. Then there is a cost comparison, major advantages. So advantage for the drone is very clear: cost effective, highly flexible to use, very high resolution, and less affected by cloud cover. So these are the other solution you can have a look. Engineering solution this is for the railways, actually Indian Railways. So this bridge structure surveying, project management, yard survey planning, CAD drawing for planning. And interestingly, all the points can be covered using this single technology of drones and the nearby environment of GIS, AI, and platforms and all sort of thing. Right? Construction, you can go for new track construction planning, track rehabilitation, device installation, yard station upgradation, process visual and reports. Maintenance, you can talk about track inspection, derail repair, track remediation, preventive maintenance, all these kind of things. So this is an example that how the railways is actually expanding. And yep. I'm done from my side. Thank you so much, guys, everyone, for listening very carefully. Sorry if I took a lot of time, I think.
Why should you be sorry, Kanav? This just shows that how good a teacher you are.
I'm not, I
When I give you a
think.
mic, you want to say about everything, which is the best way somebody can share. That's so nice of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
So there are a couple of
Yeah,
questions which are coming in.
interesting. Thank you.
Uh,
Yes. Should I stop the
I'll
sharing
read
of this?
out. Yeah, I'll read out to you. How expensive is the LiDAR survey, say for 1 square kilometer, and how feasible is it for small scale projects? I believe Rabin is asking about drone based LiDAR.
Okay. What's the name of the person, ma'am? Sorry.
Rabin.
Navin. Okay, hi Varun. So your question is if I'm able to understand that what is the feasibility of LiDAR survey and the cost, right? So the cost of this particular survey, the kind of survey we need to do, it's pretty much expensive actually because the device and the drone which you need to use, it's almost above 40 to 50 lakh rupees. So the cost is very high. There is no doubt, but the kind of the kind of technology, the kind of data you will get, it is the only solution you can acquire. LiDAR is the only solution to acquire this kind of data. Vegetations, using for forest analysis, using for finding the health of the forest, the girth of the trees. So there are very interesting use cases. Then urban planning is also a very interesting use case for LiDAR. So you can expect that by 2022 or 23, it will come to a cost near around the RGB. I won't say that it will come to the cost of the RGB, but near around you can say. There are so many interesting companies who are actually working to to figure out the low cost LiDAR, to find the low cost LiDAR. So you can find that. You will get that.
So I believe by the time LiDAR becomes the cost of RGB drones
Uh,
will become the cost of a mobile phone.
it can, ma'am. It can, no doubt. Matlab, every guy, every person can have this kind of technology. People can use it for their, it will be into daily life. I think it will be into the daily life.
It has to be. And that's where we all are heading to, right?
Correct.
So
It's
Shweta
a
is
costly
asking,
affair.
yeah, so
Yes,
Shweta
please,
is
please.
asking, what are the reaction of Indian government towards this? I believe she's asking about the projects that we are doing for the highways and the railways. What is
Okay.
the reaction of Indian government?
Okay. So reaction, I'm what I'm able to understand from your question is how they react for the data, or are they
No,
open to
probably
use the
she's
drones?
asking about their experience, how happy they are, or how anxious or
Okay.
how concerned or conservative they are, and how open they are. Probably.
Okay. I got it. Okay, I got it. So Shweta, thanks for asking the question. So first, I would say that it's very difficult to convince them for a new technology. There is no doubt in that. It took a lot of effort, not only for us, almost every startup and every company in this particular domain, to make them understand. Because see, you need to understand there's a huge gap. It's decade gap almost. They are almost at the age of 50, 60, 55. So they are already there inside their comfort zone. Okay, we are the people who are not actually inside the comfort zone. We are trying to get out of that. So it's difficult to make them understand, but after they get the data, after they find it that the data is useful, so it is the responsibility of an entrepreneur or a startup to make sure that you teach them also. It's very easy to just give the data and give them the bill and take the amount and go away, right? This is not the right way. I think teaching them, giving them the right knowledge transfer is important. Then they will open up, and then they will give you the more opportunities. So this is the right way. They are open, but there are some people who are not very open. So it's almost equilibrium. You can balance that.
Thanks, Kanav. So there is a question from Mayank. What is your
Okay.
advice on starting as an outsider and gaining a foothold in the drone services industry?
As an outsider,
Someone
what he's
who is
trying to
not
say.
from the drone, I mean, they're not from the drones background, but they're trying to get into the drone services industry. And
Okay.
what would be your advice to them?
Okay. So I can, what I can advise you actually. I was also from the I'm also not from the drone industry, right? I'm
Nor am
not
I.
born.
Nor am
No,
I.
correct, right. No one is born with drone. Okay, we born with teeth, and born with bones and everything. So this is the right time, I think, Bank. For I think next 1 year from now, you can say next 1 year will be the time where you can find the opportunities, where you can work on your plans, where you can actually find the feasibility of in this particular industry there. So I will repeat that part. So if you go on road, if you go for a long drive, if you go just for a walk, you will find the opportunity nearby, right? It's Google will never give you the answer. If Google can give you the answer, then the world is actually different. Google will never give you the answer. You don't need to go Google for finding the opportunities. Go out, find the opportunity: power lines, cellular transmission, inspection, roads, railways, urban planning. I can actually not. I don't know where the opportunity lies.
Great. Anil is asking, how does railway projects work? Is it through tender or you can apply as a consultant?
So Anilji, most of the project is through tender only, right? So first you need to go for pilot projects. You need to showcase your technology. You need to showcase the accurate kind of data accuracy and the time frame where you can deliver. And then after, if they find okay for a stretch of 100 kilometer, 200 kilometer, they find that the technology is right. Then they used to open the tender. But becoming a consultant it will take time. So PwC, KPMG, EY, these are the people who are consultant. Consultant won't execute anything. We are the people here to execute the things.
Okay. David, he's from Rwanda. He's
Okay.
asking, I would like to ask what were the technologies used before drone technology to monitor and inspect inspection of both friction as well as corrosion of railways?
Okay. Very interesting question. So there's a incident which came into my mind. So when we are actually, I'm also on the ground. I used to be on ground when we are inspecting this Chambal Bridge. So one of the difficult project we did. So there are so many railway engineers they are used to come. Okay. So one day I asked them, sir, how you used to do these things earlier before drones and all? So they are like, we used to take the boats. We have the high resolution DSLR camera, and they go beneath the structure, and then they used to zoom. They used to click the picture, and just on the basis of one or two or three picture they are able to acquire, they used to make the reports. So it is most about making the report on the theoretical basis, not about the practical data and all. So most of them are like DSLR solution only. They used to click the picture and then they used to showcase, okay, pillar number this, spire number this, bearing number this is not in good shape, and these kind of things. So things were not data driven. So you need to understand that data is the fuel. Okay, data is new fuel. So you need to see that fuel is coming into your your path. So you need to figure out that how you use that fuel. So data will be the fuel for the future, no doubt.
Anil is asking again, how do you map power transmission lines without interference?
So Anilji, you can use RTK solution there. So I can actually have a discussion. You can drop me a mail. It's a long discussion. We have learned through a hard way. We have almost lost 2 drones during our power transmission. So we're not able to figure out. So connection with the satellite is very weak during the power line when it's on actually. So high EMF is a very big issue. Then you have to you need to find a solution to get the ground reference. So from that ground reference you will locate your drone. You will give the position to your drone. So RTK is the solution. So I recommend that the new drone which is in the industry, DJI M300 RTK. So this will be one of the game changer in the inspection industry. And the drone which we use is M210 RTK. So without that, it's very difficult. Trust me, it's very difficult to inspect a line beyond 11,000 kV. 11,000 kV. Beyond that, it's very difficult. And if you have to do the mapping and if you have to do the slag analysis, then LiDAR is the only solution.
Interesting. How was your expectation before entering industry and the reality inside and the learnings?
I actually don't have any expectation. Literally, I never entered into a. This is my third startup, so I have never entered with any kind of expectation. So it's all about sudden. I'm into into the hobby part of the drones and flying and everything. A day strike, man, need to do something in this particular industry. So it's not about expectation. Yeah, things are things are not very good or not very bad. You need to manage and you need to balance the things. So you need to handle and you need to manage the people outside your periphery.
Kanav, I have a question for you. You're working for
Thank you.
industries like railways and highways and even urban planning and development. You know, my experience has been, I mean, I may be wrong, I may be right, I don't know, but then, for whatever little experience that I have in the drones, people don't like transparency of the data much. Where there is where there are millions of rupees which are involved, and that a lot of transparency, if you bring in the data transparency or the data accuracy that we talk about, if you give them that level of accuracy, you also open up a can of worms for everyone, because you then hold them accountable for every inch of structure that they create or they destroy. What is your experience about it? They like transparency or they don't like transparency?
They don't actually. So now you have to swell this with a pinch of salt. You have to you have to if you are into industry, you have to manage all these kind of things. You are 100% correct. I am with you in this. They don't like transparency, and especially when we work in the coal industry and all, so they never like the transparency. 100% transparency with the kind of data, what kind of raw material they are producing, how much, the kind of the quality of roads, the quality of railways structure and all. Yeah, correct. You are fine. You are right at that point.
Do we
Again,
become
the
a
manage.
threat for them? Do we become a threat for their success?
Sorry.
Do we become some kind of a threat for them? Do they
No, no,
see us
not
as
at all.
threat?
No, no, not at all. Their success into a very, the gray area, our success into a very transparent area. So both things are different. So they work in the gray area. We work in a very clear and the clear visible thing. So there I won't say that everything have a issue. Every person have a issue with the data and all. If you talk about the corporate, if you talk about the private industry, they are very open. They need the best kind of data, right?
Okay.
But yeah, when we talk about the government and all, there are some issues.
Yeah. So Radhika is asking,
Huh.
how did you start working on this project? What was your first step? Did you get any pilot training before starting this project, or you formed a team with different skills?
So we started with drone pilot training itself. So the company which we started, the Better Drone, started with a pilot training academy, because we don't have money to buy drones, big drones, and execute the project. Even not the knowledge at that part. So we started with the training part, and slowly, people inside the industry was able to understand. Okay, these are the people having good training, good standard to fly. Then slowly, I used to approach everyone. Can you give us some work for data acquisition? Just for the data acquisition, we will acquire data, we will acquire quality data, we will make sure that your client is happy with the kind of data and the process which we follow on ground. And this is the way how we started. Always small step.
Okay. Do they expect more from you beyond data acquisition? Are there more expectations coming your way which you refuse?
At the early stage, we refused a lot because we don't have that kind of capability. But now we are full fledged. You can expect anything. Yeah, this is the story almost a year back.
Yeah. David again is asking, what are the advices that you would like to give for young startups, especially in technology entrepreneurship? I mean, for those who want to start their own companies in technology.
Okay. Do your research good, understand the market, understand the emotions of the market, and then get into the market. And never trust the business model, the PPT, and all the beauty of the industry. You need to have to go on ground, understand the situation, understand the pocket of a client, understand the feasibility of the technology you are putting. It's not always good to showcase the technology is always good, but you need to understand the use cases of that technology, that at what kind of the kind of degree you can turn up. If the client is using your technology, that what kind of the expectation he can meet up, or are you actually solving the pain point, or are you actually hitting the pain point. You need to think for pain point. PPTs and all these things can easily be made. Anyone can make that.
True. Anil is asking again, anything apart from flight logs to prove the number of flying hours?
I think this is the only way. This is the hard and the right way. Flight logs is the only way. It will tell you that you had flown or not. Maintaining your flight logbooks is the only way. I think I had never seen an alternate for this. So for some things, finding an alternate is not good. I think you have to stick to some standards.
Shweta is asking again, Kanam, what is the biggest challenge you had to face during the project?
Coordinating with the clients is one of the biggest challenge which we used to face. And I think this is one of the challenge. Then commitment of the people. It's like we can't trust anyone actually. So nowadays, if we are talking to some guy on the ground, that can you come with a car? We are hiring your car. and on the other day it's very difficult that there's no car and we have to go on ground. So these are the small challenges, but if you figure out, the again, I will talk about the SOPs, the plans and all. If your operation manager is actually planning, talking to 4 different hotels, 4 different car owners, 4 different taxi guys, so there are always the ABCD plans. So you have to make sure that your plans are on the on the right side. So you can't just stick to one thing.
Great. Anand is asking again, can you explain your team and their roles?
Team, okay. Myself, I'm Kanav. I used to take care of the business development and a little bit of technology side. Abhishek used to take care of the training and the financial side. Brigadier Sunil Chadda, sir, he is a CEO. He used to manage everything, that everything go into the right, taking right shape, and we will go beyond the stars. So this is the the major team, and then we have a team of pilots, co-pilots, processing people, analytic guys, then social media, then other things. Yeah, there are plenty good family, not a team.
So Palak is asking, why is LiDAR needed for plum planning? Why can't RGB camera work?
Okay, so Palak, you need to understand that if you see from a top side, just imagine a top view. Okay, you will see a layer of maybe all the roofs, only the layer. But when you have to do the feature extraction, how you will analyze the boundaries, how you will figure out that there's a road or a small street in between, what are the areas and all. So when you process the RGB data, you will find the canopy. It's a white layer or a layer with a different colors. So I'm talking about the Dharavi project which we are doing to going to do in some days. So LiDAR, and the interesting part is you can overlap the data of RGB with LiDAR. So it will give you a different level of picture. So RGB is already there. When you need the intense data, when you need a data with high granularity, with a layer of every, layer of every, I can say model on that, all the feature will easily get extracted. Roads, the small, the small house and everything. So that's why you require a LiDAR.
Interesting. Any more questions, anybody? If anybody wants to still have some more questions. And Palak is asking again, can we mount both camera on the same drone? LiDAR and
Yes, we
RGB?
can. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. You need a big drone to carry the system with LiDAR and RGB camera.
Okay. Anyone still has a question, Anand sir, or you want to express something, you can unmute yourself and talk.
Thanks, Dilip ji.
Hi, Kanav. Really good presentation. Mayank here.
Hi, Mayank. How are you? Yep.
I'm good. I was really curious about the LiDAR thing as well, like the other students.
Okay.
Are there, is it also a Velodyne LiDAR? Like, what is the LiDAR on board? And are there only scanning LiDARs on drones right now, or are there also solid state LiDARs coming in?
No, as of now, only the scanning LiDAR, and you do get the right name. So Velodyne is actually a laser. It's not a LiDAR system. So making a LiDAR system, you need a laser, then you need a GPS, and then you need a processing board, the Apple Linux board or some other kind of board you can use. And then you need to integrate everything on the hardware and the software side. And then there is a time stamping, there is a GPS coordinate system you need to match. So lots of things from the, not from the hardware side, most of the thing from the integration side. So Velodyne is only a laser. You can use that laser for any purpose. Maybe for your, these autonomous cars and all. So they are also using these Velodyne LiDAR and everything.
So then do you buy the entire solution, and like who's the vendor who gives you the package? Because
We can.
Sure. I get it.
Yeah, please tell me.
So I was just saying that because it seems like so I know about LiDARs from self-driving cars and from that industry.
Correct.
And for me, I haven't worked with them myself. I have worked with LiDAR data sets. So I
Okay.
thought that there is one level of integration that already Velodyne does and provides to that industry. So I wasn't sure on like aerial LiDARs what else goes in and who packages that for us.
So if you're looking for a full stack solution, then Yellowscan is a good solution. Velodyne will only give you the laser. Yellowscan can give you the full solution. Full solution, when I say all the the GNSS part, the GPS part, and the processor part, and then the laser, and they will integrated everything, and then you can just plug that LiDAR onto your drone and then acquire the data on your software. So it's the easiest solution is with the Yellowscan, but that's a very expensive solution actually.
Sure. Thanks.
Thanks. Bye bye.
Any more questions? Would someone else like to come online and talk? So I guess, Kanav, we will come to the end of this session.
Okay.
And thank you so much. I thank you
Thank you
on
so
behalf of
much.
the entire class. We have almost 80 participants from all across the world, and some of them are here online. Some of them will be watching a recording later, and will
Right.
definitely be sharing the feedback with you. But thank you so much for sharing so generously and openly about all the experiences that you have had. You are one of the best teachers that we have had so far. Thank you so much, Kanav. And
Thank you
thank you
so much. Thank you, everyone.
everybody for
Thank
being here
you.
tonight. And we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you so much again.